All right, let's just dive right in. What if I told you there's a treasure out there so huge it makes every gold rush in history look like, well, pocket change? And what if I told you this treasure is hidden in plain sight, dissolved in the very water that covers most of our planet? This right here is the ocean's golden paradox, an unbelievable fortune that has always been just out of our reach. So, just how big are we talking? Well, the current scientific estimate is a mind-blowing 20 million tons of gold. Yep, you heard that right. 20 million tons. All of it just suspended in the world's oceans. It's a number so big, it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. And to really put that in perspective, check this out. On the left, you've got every single speck of gold that humans have painstakingly dug out of the ground for thousands of years. That's about 212,000 tons. And on the right, the gold in the ocean. It's not just a little bit more, it's almost 100 times more. Which, of course, leads to the big question, right? If there's that much gold just floating around, why aren't we all billionaires? Why isn't every country with a coastline a gold mining superpower? Well, that is the exact mystery we're going to unpack right now. You see, the answer starts when you realize that ocean gold isn't just one thing, it actually exists in two totally different forms. One of them is this tantalizing, almost impossible dream. But the other is a very real, very concentrated prize just sitting there on the seafloor. So here's the catch with that 20 million ton number. It's all dissolved gold, and the dilution is just extreme. We're talking parts per quadrillion. To get just 1 single gram of gold, about the weight of a paper clip, you would have to filter and process 100 million tons of seawater. That's the staggering challenge that has stumped everyone for over a century. But then there's the second type of ocean gold. This stuff isn't dissolved. It's solid metal, forged in the fiery heart of underwater volcanoes and laid down in thick deposits. And the grades? That's the amount of gold you get per ton of rock. They're absolutely spectacular. We're talking grades that make most land-based mines look pathetic. I mean, just look at these numbers. These are from actual sites in the Pacific. In the Eastern Manus Basin, you're averaging 15 grams of gold per ton. And Conical Seamount, near Papua New Guinea, it averages 26 grams per ton, with some samples hitting an insane 230 grams. These aren't just rich, these are bonanza grade. And this chart, this is why people are getting so excited. Your average gold mine on land today, they're lucky if they get about 1 gram of gold for every ton of rock they crush. Now compare that to the seafloor average of 15, or Conical Seamount at 26. You can see the economic pull here. The treasure is just that much more concentrated. So how in the world does Earth create these underwater treasure chests? Well, it all comes down to this incredibly powerful geological engine that's running in the deep sea, right where tectonic plates are pulling apart and magma is super close to the surface. Okay, let's walk through it. Think of it like a natural factory. First, super cold seawater sinks down into deep cracks in the ocean floor. As it gets closer to the magma, it gets superheated to around 400 degrees Celsius. This hot, now acidic water is a perfect solvent, and it just leaches metals like gold straight out of the surrounding rock. Then, this super concentrated mineral soup shoots back up and erupts from a hydrothermal vent, a black smoker, into the freezing cold ocean. That insane dermal shock makes all those dissolved metals instantly solidify, building up these huge mineral chimneys over thousands of years. And get this, just this year, in 2024, scientists finally figured out a key piece of how those super-rich bonanza-grade veins form. They found that when that hot mineral fluid mixes with normal seawater, the sodium in the seawater acts like a switch. It neutralizes these tiny gold nanoparticles, which makes them instantly clump together. The researchers use this brilliant analogy. It's like adding lemon juice to milk and watching it instantly form curds. That's how you get these incredibly pure veins of gold. Now, this dream of getting gold from the ocean, it's not new. In fact, one of the most ambitious and, frankly, tragic attempts happened way back in the 1920s. And it was led by a Nobel Prize-winning chemist who was driven by pure national desperation. So after World War I, Germany was completely crippled by war reparations. The chemist, Fritz Haber, came up with this incredible idea. Why not pay off the entire national debt by mining the dissolved gold from the sea? Based on some very faulty early estimates, he actually convinced the government to fund this massive 2-year expedition. But as the crew of the ship, the Meteor, took thousands of samples across the Atlantic, however, had this just devastating realization. The real concentration of gold was 1,000 times lower than anyone thought, which made the whole project an economic fantasy. But here's the beautiful twist in the story. While the Meteor expedition was a total failure at finding gold, it accidentally revolutionized our understanding of the planet. It was the first mission to ever systematically use echo sounders to map the ocean floor. It revealed that the deep sea wasn't some flat, boring plain. It was a rugged world of massive mountains and canyons. And in doing so, they provided the very first hard evidence for the mid-Atlantic ridge, a cornerstone for the theory of plate tectonics. It's just a perfect example of how scientific failure can lead to the most incredible, unexpected progress. So Haber's dream of getting the dissolved gold failed. But what about those super-rich seafloor deposits we talked about? Well, today, a new high-tech gold rush is quietly getting underway, and this time it's armed with technology that would have looked like pure science fiction 100 years ago. We're talking about things like nanotechnology sponges that can literally pluck individual gold ions out of a solution. There are new light-activated polymers on the horizon that promise a cleaner, reusable way to extract it. On the seafloor itself, advanced robots can map these deposits in stunning detail, while high-tech sorters can make sure only the richest ore gets brought to the surface. We are getting very, very close to making the impossible possible. And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most important question of all. Just because we're figuring out how to do this, does that mean we should? This question has kicked off a fierce global debate about whether this incredible treasure is worth the potential cost. And believe me, this debate is not abstract. Just look at the Sulwara 1 project in Papua New Guinea. This was supposed to be the world's very first commercial deep-sea mine, targeting those rich gold and copper deposits. The first company behind it went bankrupt, but the project has been revived, with new trial mining happening just this year. It is the real-world test case for this entire industry. And here's the fundamental conflict. On one hand, the economic pull is just immense. These deposits are 10 times richer than what we have left on Rand. But the risks are massive. We could completely destroy these unique deep-sea ecosystems, which are home to creatures found nowhere else on Earth. There are huge concerns about what this could do to local fisheries and the people who depend on them, and this is all happening while the global governing body, the International Seabed Authority, is still literally trying to write the rulebook. The opposition is serious, and it's growing. This quote from the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, the very country where Sulwara 1 is located, shows just how high the stakes are. He's echoing a global call from scientists, environmentalists, and even other countries for what's called a precautionary pause, basically to hit the brakes and figure out the risks before we dive in. So that's where we are right now. We have declining resources on land, but a growing demand for gold, not just for jewelry, but for all our green technology and electronics. And on the other side, we have this fragile, largely unexplored frontier that could be damaged forever. So the ultimate question we're all facing is this: will the deep sea become humanity's greatest treasure, or will it be our next great environmental sacrifice? That's a choice that is being made as we speak.